Hello! I recently got a response video from Professor Stick. Usually the people I interact with occupy 3 dimensions, so it's nice to finally interact with a fellow Stick person. Let's see what he has to say.
Hey guys, very quick video today. Here's a video I found that briefly tells us why evolution is false.
I'm sorry, I have to stop it already. The Evolutionary Argument Against Naturalism argues that a belief in naturalism, which refers to the proposition that there are no supernatural entities, no god or anything godlike, is problematic when held in conjunction with a belief in evolution. This conjunction is a problem. You can hold to naturalism or evolution individually, but not together.
I always enjoy these types of videos that draws or animates the visuals.
The Evolutionary Argument Against Naturalism. Your beliefs come from your brain. Where did your brain come from? Maybe it's from evolution. Hi. Now, evolution, do you care about true or false beliefs? Oh no, I only care about your survival and reproduction. If I could get you to do a survival-promoting action, I don't care if you did the action on the basis of true or false beliefs.
Yes, I do agree with you to some degree. To pass down your genes to the next generation, what ultimately matters is your fitness. That means even believing things that aren't true is beneficial if it means a better probability of survival. For example, the way I always explain how religion came about is that it brings people together. When people believe in the same thing, they tend to stick to each other, become better friends, and care for each other. So it's no surprise that religion of any kind could come about during human evolution. And of course, you have to truly believe it, otherwise the bonding doesn't work, even if the belief itself is wrong.
It seems that he's giving an argument that religion is false, but I'm not quite sure. Imagine for a minute that a monotheistic religion is in fact true. Then there is a god who created humans and wants them to worship him. It's entirely consistent then to believe that God chose to create humans via an evolutionary process precisely because it would produce humans with religious tendencies. Thus, if religion were in fact merely a product of evolutionary processes, that would be consistent with both the falsity or the truth of the religion in question.
But of course, I'd like to say it's primitive thinking to believe in a god. Now, because of all the science and technology we have developed to increase the quality of life of human beings, people tend to believe in religion less. That's why developing countries tend to have more ties between, say, politics and religion, which is a bad thing, but that's usually not the case for developed countries.
Whew boy. You said, I'd like to say that it's primitive thinking to believe in a god. So, if you believe in a god, you're engaging in primitive thinking. Professor Stick seems pretty respectful. This statement, however, strikes me as really silly, unless I've just misunderstood him. No matter where you stand on the question of God's existence, you need to at least admit that there are advanced arguments on both sides of the debate, advocated for by very intelligent people whose thinking is sophisticated, not primitive. Also, I actually think that making a political decision on the basis of a false religion is a bad idea. So I could see why someone who thought that all religions are false would think that politics should be divorced from religion. However, Christianity is true.
But yeah, just because I agree with you on this point does not mean I agree with the next.
I don't care if you run away from a tiger because you think it's going to kill you or because you think tigers have black magic, just that you run away.
Fear is built into all of us and helped our ancestors survive. If you run away from dangerous animals, you have a better chance of survival, and oftentimes this does clash with our logical thinking. Even if you know something is safe, that still doesn't stop you from being scared of it.
Yep, agreed.
Well, that's sketchy. So if evolution made a brain, we shouldn't believe it's reliable until we could prove that the brain actually produces true beliefs, rather than useful yet false beliefs.
Okay, you can't use that as an argument because yes, sometimes believing in the wrong thing can be better for your survival, but that doesn't mean evolution only selects out wrong beliefs.
I never said that.
Most of the time, actually, knowing the truth about a situation is much better and leads to better fitness. That's exactly why human beings have become the dominant life form on Earth, because of our ability to think at higher levels and determine the truth in science which creates our technology today.
Okay, I think we've got to the heart of the misunderstanding here. See, my 42-ish second video was obviously not an in-depth analysis of the evolutionary argument against naturalism. It's the most boiled down, bare-bones explanation of the argument I could possibly give. So the fact that there's some misunderstanding here is totally understandable. I don't fault Professor Stick for it in the slightest. If he wanted, maybe he could look at what other people had to say about the argument, like Alvin Plantinga, the argument's creator, but he's also totally free to criticize a video on its own merits. With that preface out of the way, let's actually get into that misunderstanding. The assumption that Professor Stick is working under is that the content of our beliefs cause our actions in approximately the way we think they do. So, I have a belief whose content is, unless I take this pill, then I will die. This belief causes me to contract certain muscles that move my arm and take the pill. Coolio. He then argues that, while sometimes false beliefs cause survival-promoting actions, it will largely be the case that true beliefs are useful for survival, because through science and stuff, our understanding of the world drastically promotes our survival. Professor Stick seems to think I'm ignorant of the second step here, and tries to educate me. However, that's not the case. It's the first portion that is being denied by this argument. It's denying this intuition that the content of our beliefs are what cause our actions, at least if naturalism is true. But how could someone deny that? It seems pretty obvious that the content of our beliefs cause our actions. Well, on naturalism, humans are completely material things. There isn't anything supernatural about humans like souls or whatnot. So the content of your beliefs will be entirely determined by the state of your brain. The state of your brain is what also causes the actions that your body performs, either actions that increase your fitness or decrease your fitness. Now, evolution only cares about actions that increase your fitness, and by extension, the things that cause your actions. So evolution will only care about the content of your beliefs if the contents of your beliefs are in the causal chain leading to your actions. But they're not. Only the physical state of your brain is responsible for the actions you perform, given naturalism. So evolution will make sure that your brain's state will be suited to performing the correct kinds of fitness-promoting actions, but the content of your beliefs that the brain state correspond to are just going to be dragged along for the ride. The content of your beliefs under this worldview don't actually do anything. So if the content of a given belief was in fact true, that's not because its truth was useful or did anything. It's because the underlying neurology was useful, and this underlying neurology produced a belief which by sheer chance had true content. The importance of this is massive. If the truth of a belief plays no functional role, then we lose any reason to think our beliefs are true. But if we have no reason to think any given belief is true, then we need to doubt literally everything, even the existence of the external world as we know it. However, you could get off this crazy train if you believe in God, because he, being a good creator, would make sure that the contents of your beliefs would at least somewhat reliably match up with reality, whether he made the brain via evolution or some other method. Here, I'll try to use a loose thought experiment to clarify the argument, because it is really hard to conceptualize. Here's my dog, Fido. When he gets a certain stimulus from his eyes, he forms a neural structure which corresponds to the belief that there is a mouse in front of me. Another part of his brain reacts to neural structures which correspond to that belief, and this causes him to pounce on the mouse, which is a survival-promoting action. Now, this is a thought experiment, so let's mess with Fido's brain. When he gets that certain stimulus from his eyes, let's make it so his brain forms a neural structure which corresponds to the belief that I'm the Queen of England. Another part of his brain reacts to neural structures which correspond to that belief and cause him to pounce on the mouse. His actions will be the same, but the belief he has is totally different, and his fitness hasn't decreased at all. Assuming the physical structure corresponding to the belief I am the Queen of England performs the same role in the organism as the original physical structure corresponding to the belief that there is a mouse in front of me, the underlying nature of the physical structure and the belief it's attached to don't matter. Now, we just messed with a very small portion of Fido's brain, but let's now start making the same changeroo with a bunch of his belief-forming faculties. When he hears a roar, this causes a structure corresponding to the belief that 78 is a prime number, which causes him to cower, for example. Just a bunch of weird structures like that. As far as evolution is concerned, Fido is no worse off as he still performs all the same fitness-promoting actions. However, his beliefs are all an incoherent mess beneath the surface. What the argument here is asking us to consider is, what if evolution picked out a brain like Fido's messed up one for humans? Something useful as far as evolution is concerned, but totally deluded about reality. That's kind of the idea in a really loose sense. The specific example may actually be physiologically impossible, but we're asking more generally about the possibility of brains that have all wrong beliefs, but the correct actions. Anyway, let's get back to Professor Stick's video.
Obviously, when it comes to science, we know that what we learned is true, because we've built technology around it. From the house you live in, to the TV you watch, to the Wi-Fi you use, it's no different for evolution, and the knowledge of evolution is indeed useful for when we learn about diseases and new treatments. So for example, if you've gotten sick from COVID and had some sort of treatment for it, our knowledge of evolution has at least somewhat been responsible for treating you. If we didn't have our evolutionary studies, we wouldn't have been able to determine where this virus came from, how it mutated to what it is today, and we wouldn't know how variants come about and what it means in terms of public health. All of science is at least intertwined a bit to some degree, so you're benefiting from knowledge that branched out from evolution.
The content of our beliefs may be that Wi-Fi exists, or I got vaccinated, or I'm watching a video right now. But these beliefs themselves could all be byproducts of an evolutionary advantageous neurology which produces false beliefs. Fido might very well have all those beliefs too because they were produced by some random stimulus. So, none of our perceptions of the external world in any way disprove that evolution gave us false beliefs. The evolutionary argument against naturalism, then, is pushing a really radical skepticism. If the argument goes through, it produces a skepticism about all of your beliefs. Like, it's on a par with believing that you're in the Matrix or that you're being deceived by a Cartesian demon.
Second of all, even if you say that all evolution does for our brains is to believe in things that makes us better for survival, that still would produce rational thinking and intelligence on the side. They're not exclusive to one another. So as we become more and more intelligent, we recognize what kind of beliefs we have that are wrong. So for example, any of the well-known biases like negativity bias or anything that talks about human perception is our way of making our thinking as objective as possible.
See, Professor Stick really wants to bring scientific evidence to support his position, which is commendable. But the unfortunate thing is that this argument is philosophical in nature. Like, your knowledge of the existence of a certain scientific study, for example, requires that the content of your beliefs was not produced by an evolutionary useful yet totally deluded brain state. So if this argument is going to be dodged, it will be dodged by logically analyzing the concepts present, not by empirical research.
And it is now, after we have made significant progress in science and technology, do we realize that a lot of our thinking is out of date. The field of psychology tells us about this all the time, and it's time to get rid of some outdated thinking methods, such as religion.
That's wrong on a lot of levels. Religions are not thinking methods. They're more like sets of propositions, like God exists, Jesus is God, Jesus died for my sins, and so on. Religions can influence the way you think, but they are primarily claims that are either true or false. Therefore, any given religion should only be given up if the propositions claimed by the religion are in fact false.
But any proof that you could come up with relies on your brain already being reliable, the very thing in question.
Even if we start with the premise that the reliability of the brain is questionable, that still doesn't conclude the point you are trying to make, because each claim is measured on the merit of the claim itself, not on the person or thing that makes the claim. Whenever an idea is presented, you evaluate it, not the person presenting the idea, or in this case, the brain that presented the idea. Otherwise, it would just be a mild case of poisoning the well.
This is confused. Indeed, we judge claims on the merit of the claim itself, not the person presenting it. However, the claim in this case is about the person presenting it. The thing is, if you want to give an argument and provide some evidence, any evidence, that your cognitive faculties aren't totally and completely unreliable, then you're going to have to assume that your cognitive faculties are reliable enough to judge the validity and soundness of that argument. So, you can't argue that your cognitive faculties aren't totally and completely unreliable without begging the question. All you could do is avoid positions that do entail that your cognitive faculties are completely and totally unreliable, like, as this argument claims, the conjunction of naturalism and evolution.
So evolution traps us in being unable to trust any of our beliefs. All of this is assuming that evolution is unguided, but if God guides evolution, then he can ensure that our brains would be reliable. The end.
I'm not sure what your stance is since I haven't seen your other videos, but I'm guessing you do believe in evolution, but that God guided it? Not the craziest of claims, but also unfounded since everything described by evolution very well can happen on its own without any sort of intelligent guidance. That's one of the ideas that really defined Darwin's thought in the beginning.
Hold up. Then why did you open this video saying I was arguing for the falsehood of evolution, if your best guess is that I am, in fact, a theistic evolutionist?
Here's a video I found that briefly tells us why evolution is false. I'm guessing you do believe in evolution? Here's a video I found that briefly tells us why evolution is false. I'm guessing you do believe in evolution?
I'm confused.
Anyway, that's the end of the video today, guys. Very short one, I know. Thank you to my patrons Fireshard, Alan Morton, JN, and Miss Fixit for supporting me on Patreon. See y'all later.
Oh, well, it looks like we've reached the end. I'd like to thank Professor Stick for interacting with my video, and doing so respectfully. The responses I'm used to are usually different. Anyways, that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this content.